So I have just hit the go live button. I'm going to hang around for a couple of minutes and just wait for people to arrive. Emma is on the other end, harvesting up comments and feeding them to me as we go. Emma, could you give me a thumbs up on Slack, please? Just so I can make sure everything is working. There's always a delay on these things, so I'll just hang around for a while. See if we get a few people come to join in the fun. Perfect. Slack is go. So I will just wait to see if we get a few people come and join in the fun. I'm just going to let you know what's been going on. I apologise for not sending out anything much in the way of a notification about this live broadcast because it's been completely manic over the last week or so. It really has been absolutely crazy. I'm working on a brand new course with my partner in crime, Simon Taplin, a new online one, and we've been filming in Spain. We've been running around all over the place. So I also apologise for not having put up quite so many YouTube videos this year. It's been a crazy year working on all sorts of things in the background to do with the business and on the business. But normal service will hopefully be resumed soon. We will have some new workshops and things. Oh, look at all you lovely folks. Let's have a little, my mouse isn't scrolling properly. Hello, Samuel, Stephen, Craig Scott, hi. Jayan Larkin, Tom Harper, George Baker, Sandy Souza, Photo Zen. G'day, mate, Johnny. Keith Taylor. Keith Gallagher, look at all you lovely folks showing up. Thank you so much for coming. I truly, truly respect and appreciate your loyalty because I know I've been kind of absent on YouTube quite a lot this year. So thank you so much for coming. I truly appreciate it. There's some stuff that I really want to do this year and over the coming year, and there was a lot of things in the background we had to do. So, all cool. Why don't we get going? Hey up me duck, J.R. Larkin. Hey up me duck. Right, enough of this in-house joking. Let's look at a few pictures. I just want to talk you through some of my top 5 favourites. I don't know about you guys, but I know for myself, my favourite photo changes regularly. It's very rarely the same thing for long. Some days it's this, and another day it's that, and then you get an exciting new one, and then you look back through some images you took and go, oh, I dismissed that one at the time. And then you kind of go, wow, yeah, actually I like it again now. Choosing my top 5 was a really, really tough call because they do change. And I also wanted to try and show you some things that you maybe haven't seen before rather than trot out the same old, same old. And also talk you through the pictures and a little bit about choice, etc. So let's kick off with the first one. So this is the World War II Lancaster bomber owned by the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. I'm lucky enough that a good friend of mine, Tim, is one of the longest serving members of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, and he's been flying this Lancaster for many years. So I was down at Southampton Airport when they were doing a tour around the country, and Tim had said, "Come on down to the airport. Come and see us. Come and take some pictures. Maybe we're going to have a curry." As you can see, the sun was starting to set, and it was all starting to look rather nice. But regional airports, as indeed airports, big airports all over the world, they're kind of messy places, aren't they? With trucks and sheds and luggage trolleys everywhere and all this. So trying to get an overall shot of the Lancaster was a really, really tough call. In front of it is actually a fuel tanker. There's an Esso fuel tanker. They were refueling it at the time. If you look under the wing on the left side of the image as you're looking at it, you can see a little bit of white with a kind of curve in it. That is the wheel arch of the tanker. So I had to find the angle where I could lose it. We had to do a tight shot rather than an overall shot. Wait till the sun started to set, and it did do it rather beautifully, which I felt was kind of poignant given what the subject matter is. But the key thing here really was composition. It was about finding the right angle, finding the right place, finding the spot that would hide all the clutter that was going on around it. I just saw, Flight Gallery. Looks like it's in flight because of the angle. Thank you, Flight Gallery. I guess it does a bit. I'd never thought of that because, of course, I have the attachment of knowing that it was on the ground in a very untidy, cluttered place, and I'm thinking, how on earth am I going to do this? Now, this also brings me on to, what you like and what you don't like. So this was kind of one of my favourite shots yet. Tim, of the pilot, he prefers this one. Same thing, same time. I just took it from, the other side of the fuselage. I just moved from this side over to this side in order to take it. Which one do you like best? I'm just intrigued to know. Please pop it into the chat. Let me know. If you're watching the replay of this later, leave it in the comment. Do you prefer this shot of the length, the one that I like, which is obviously tasteful, and this one, which is okay, but Tim's a pilot, he doesn't know anything about aesthetics. It'd just be interesting to know. But it's all about where you stand and getting the angles right, really, I think. I see my PA, Emmeline Churcher, just commented the first one. Well done, Emma. Your job is maintained. The first one, Stephen Duffy. John Rogers, the one you like. I like the first one. Oh, that's really cool. Thank you, guys. But by all means, feel free to disagree with me as to which you like. But I really like it. Why do I like it? I like the light catching this tail fin. I like the light coming along the fuselage, coming back towards us. I kind of like the way the tail fin just sort of frames the bottom of the shot. It's kind of in its own little sort of frame thing, isn't it? It's more like that, actually, isn't it? And of course we were lucky with the weather, so it's a shot that I was really pleased with. I shot this one actually on my Nikon, my D600, I guess. Nothing special. I couldn't tell you about the settings. They were whatever settings we needed for the shot that was being taken. Reggie Lord, Reggie, I had a cold moment the other day. I meant to send you an email to say thank you so much for the present you sent me. That was so kind of you. And I'm sorry I missed you when you were in the UK. I shouldn't be talking about that now. I should have sent you a private email, but it's truly appreciated. So let's move on to maybe my second of my top 5. So we've gone off overseas now. This was in Myanmar, Burma, as it used to be called, when Simon Taplin and I were running a workshop there a couple of years ago. This was a lotus stem weaving factory where they grow these huge, great long lotuses. They draw the fibres out from inside the stems and then they weave them into all sorts of things. We've been photographing, excuse me, inside the sort of the building, the factory. It's quite a big place. It's not a factory as we think of it with industrial machinery. Everything there is powered by hand. And we've been shooting inside. I wanted to get a feel for what was going on outside, maybe have a wander around, see what was going on. And there was all these windows and these sort of little balconies across the side of the building. And this one was wide open. There was a lady had her back to me. And I just thought, wow, I really like the way she's framed up in that window. But what would be really cool would be, I think, if there was a little bit of eye contact going on between us. I think if you're photographing people, sometimes it works not to have eye contact, but I kind of like a little bit of interaction, camera to subject. And so how do we go about it? It was a case of setting up the shot, getting myself in the right place, so all those geometrical shapes and lines and patterns lined up nice and straight. I chose to just sort of crop the two, shutters on either edge of the frame to sort of mirror the shape in the middle of the frame that's framing the lady, and I like the handrails in the front. Exposure ready, composition ready, and she still didn't turn round, so I just kind of waited for a moment and then just coughed quite loudly and a little bit unnaturally, and she just kind of shifted round in her seat and looked back over her shoulder at me. And I just got that little moment, which I think was fantastic. They're beautifully friendly people, wonderful, wonderful, friendly, generous people. And we had a great time. Something which I think the more you look at this image, the more it sort of intrigues. The way we've got the colour of the wood, which is almost exactly the same as her skin colour. But if you notice the shutter on the window hard on the left, the one that's cut off on the left of the picture, compared to the one on the right. The one on the right is actually, I think it's the one on the right, is actually a shadow. It's where that shutter has been open in this searing sun, and the sun has faded the woodwork, but it hasn't faded it there because the door is open. That window shutter is open most of the time during the day, and to me that tells a little bit of a story. The way the rails at the front, they look like they're black and white. It's again where they are in the sun continuously, and the sun has faded the woodwork, yet above, to the top, above the window, there's more colour because it's in shade more of the time. Little things like that, I think, they tell stories. It's worth lingering over an image, because when we look at things, particularly on Instagram and places like that, it's tempting. We just sort of go, yeah, next. No, I quite like that. Next. You might go back. I think it's nice just to pause for a moment and try and get an experience and a feeling of what the place might be like and what the people might be like. Now, I love this colour version, but again, I find choosing really difficult. So I just want to show you a black and white version. Again, I want to pose the question, which do you prefer? Here it is in black and white. Have a little look at that, and please just let me know whether you think you prefer the black and white or maybe the colour. It's funny, isn't it? It's like, which do you prefer? Initially, I definitely preferred the black and white version, and yet maybe a year later I was revisiting these files for something, and I kind of then went, oh, I don't know, you know what, I kind of like the colour one. I kind of like the fact it's almost just one tone with a little bit of mono at the bottom. It's quite interesting. I'm seeing a lot of stuff coming in black and white, colour, black and white. This is really great. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. This is awesome. It's so interesting to see what people like. So interesting to see how we all have our own opinions, and none of us are right. It's just what we like. Both. A couple of people like both. Tough call, Coachie's Heart. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It is a tough call. But there we go. I think I'm beginning to warm towards the colour one more myself after having preferred this black and white one for a very long time. So this again, the next one is a shot that was taken on a workshop, and this is a very recent picture. This was only a month or so ago when we were doing the workshop in Cambodia and Vietnam. This was down in Vietnam. And before I tell you a little bit about the picture, because it looks as though it's post-portrait, and it absolutely isn't, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But first, I just want to show you where it was, because it's a surprising thing when you begin to see where pictures are taken. You kind of imagine a studio in an amazing place. Well, this was taken in this village, the little Muslim village. It's in Vietnam. It's on the outskirts of Chau Doc, where we take people on the workshop. And you walk around these little paths, and it's fascinating. Again, the people are so friendly. So this shot was actually taken, the room this girl is sitting in. If you follow your eyes up along this wooden walkway, you can see there's a little house, there's a balcony. You can see a few of us sort of standing there on that balcony. You can see Tim Nicholson in red. He looks like Santa Claus. Now, it was Tim who actually spotted this picture. We'd been there for an hour or two. We'd been looking at different places and walking around and chatting to some of the villagers. And we were kind of gathered there, just thinking what our next move would be, where we'd go. And as we walked around the corner from that balcony, if you look to the right, there's a little path which leads out of the village to the right of that house. As we walked down that little path, Tim just suddenly went, oh, and he turned to his left, and he sort of shot this picture too. This image was actually Tim's discovery. Now, the window had a metal grille over it, and Tim shot through the grille, and it has lots of benefit there. I decided to just poke my camera through the grille. And we just did it pretty quickly. She was just looking out the door. I think she was probably watching us, because we, of course, were on her porch. You know, the privacy is a very different concept there to what it is here, to us in the West, to the UK or America. So she was probably just smiling and watching what some of the others were doing, and we got a few shots through this side window. Now, it's pretty dark in there. The light was so beautiful. It's just gorgeous, but it was very dark, very low light. Didn't have a tripod, no time to mess around. So as I put the camera into this little hole in the grill, just poked the lens through and just sort of quickly lined up the shot. This isn't cropped, this was just very quickly lined up, zoom in and out a little bit, there it is, bang. But I just rolled the ISO wheel. This is why I like my Fuji X-T2, because the knobs I use are on the top. I don't have to go into a menu, I don't have to press any buttons, I can operate it without looking. I just quickly put my thumb on the ISO wheel and spun it. I don't know what ISO setting I was spinning it to. I was just increasing the ISO because I knew I needed a lot of ISO. It was dark and I did not want a blurry picture. It actually transpires this was shot at it was 10,000 ISO I shot this at. It didn't need to be that high. I could have probably got away with less. But had I faffed about and looked at the dial to see which ISO I was setting, well, I'd have probably missed the moment. She'd have probably turned towards me or looked the other way, or maybe decided she didn't want her photo taken. I don't know. But she seemed pretty calm. She could obviously hear we were all around her house, and you know, she just was sitting there with this beautiful, serene smile. Lovely, lovely girl. Anyway, we made friends on Facebook, myself and her and others on the workshop, and connected, and of course sent her pictures. You know, it's always worth it. Don't just take. If you go somewhere like this, it's really important to communicate and join in with the people who are giving so much for us. If you just go in and shoot pictures and run away and take because you feel self-conscious or whatever, it just messes it up for the next photographer or the next people who come through. It just gives everyone a bad name. I thought these people were incredibly generous because in other Muslim societies that I've been in, you know, photographing people is really not accepted, particularly not photographing a strange woman. I would have said particularly not in her house, but they were just so friendly. And of course, different cultures, different places, different attitudes and all the rest of it. You know. And I'll just again show you this is where it was. So this was kind of standing on her porch looking to the right, and then this was out in front of her porch looking back towards it, where you can see the guys on the balcony. And by the way, we weren't sort of trespassing past her house. The path into the village actually leads alongside the window that we shot through. It's a kind of public thoroughfare. I just saw Emma is putting a post on there, so if anybody has some questions, we're going to do a Q&A at the end. Please pop them into the comments, into the chat, and Em's going to harvest them and send them on to me because I can't follow all your comments quite so quickly. We're going somewhere exotic again before we return back to the UK. This was again in Myanmar. This is in Mandalay. It's the Ubien Bridge. It's this rickety looking sort of wooden bridge which stretches across this huge, great big sort of lake which is connected to the Irrawaddy River. It's over 1 kilometre long. And in the afternoon, well, all day really, but particularly in the afternoon even, there's people walking across backwards and forwards. So we hired a boatman to take us out onto the water so we could watch and see if there was a sunset. And as you can see, boy, was there ever a sunset, you know, we really lucked out. The key with this shot was, for me, finding the right position and the right moment. Of course, you've got to get your exposure right. I like the fact that people are a bit silhouette-y. They're not completely dark. There's a little bit of detail going on in there. But it was about timing. I wanted to try and shoot it so that the people were framed between posts. I didn't really want to have someone's head growing out of one of those posts. And also, you see the dead tree in the background. I kind of wanted to see if I could frame that as well, rather than have one of the pillars that hold the bridge up over the top of that tree. So that's just about positioning the boat, leaning to the left, leaning to the right, watching what's happening, waiting for a little moment. Because if you're going to photograph a sunset, I think it's much more interesting to have something with the environment within the picture. Where is the sunset? What does it look like? You look at that and you're going, oh, I don't know, that doesn't look like the UK to me. You know, it's somewhere different. Maybe it's a bit hot and sunny. Maybe, I don't know. But I think it's far more important to get a little bit of that environment, a little bit of what's going on. And I particularly like having the people there you know. Just having some little people walking across, it gives a feeling of really, you know, we're pretty small in this world, aren't we? I think it's quite interesting. Oh yeah, sorry, camera equipment again. Well, actually, this would have been on my Fuji X-T1 because it would have been before I left it on the roof of a minibus in Spain and drove off. So this was on my X-T1 again with the standard old 18 to 55 lens that came with it. I love that lens. I use it for almost everything. I rarely use anything else. Just occasionally I'll pop on a longer one, but don't be sucked in, guys, you know, when you hear people say, oh, you need to get a better lens than the standard 18 to 55. It's my go-to lens. I use it for almost everything. I love it. Not saying I'm right, not saying I'm wrong. And of course, there are certain genres you may want something else. I think it's kind of interesting because, as I'm sure most of you guys know, I'm not a hardcore landscaper by any stretch of the imagination. I like a landscape if it can be caught or captured, but I'm not generally someone who will go out searching for landscape photos. And I've also always been bemused why so many people are in love with sunsets, and yet going through my sort of photos for this, I'm amazed just how many sunsets there are. So this one's not really a sunset. This is the sun setting, different. The last one was a sunset. The sun had gone over the horizon. This one is the sun setting. It's descending towards the horizon. Excuse me while I have a swig of tea. I do hope you have one of your own. This is a little pond called Hatchet Pond in the New Forest. It's pretty close to where I live. The circumstances around it were a guy called Steve was with me doing a one-on-one training day, and we've been down in Bewley Village, and we sort of looked at the sky. There's a bit of interesting sky going on. There might be a bit of a sunset. Let's go up to the pond. Not a breath of wind. These are all clues for us as photographers. Water, not a breath of wind. What does that mean? Generally speaking, I would suggest it means reflections. Now, I really liked that band of heavy storm clouds sort of running through the top of the picture. It sort of funnels you from the back, almost from behind you over the top, and runs you in a curve down sort of through the image. We've got a lovely calm water and a few swans up there, and the reflection of the sun. Now, nearly all my images have had some post-production work on them. Yes, I'm not a big post producer. I don't fiddle and faff around for ages because it's just not me. But the thing is, the camera doesn't really know how the scene was or what you felt when you were there or how it appeared to your eye. It can only make its best guess when it takes your RAW file and turns it into a JPEG. So yeah, I work in Lightroom, I make my own JPEGs. But you still have to get it right at the time of shooting, particularly a very contrasty scene like this. You've got to get your exposure absolutely bang on, or else you can't fix it. Post-production is not for fixing things that are broken. It's for bringing it to life, helping to polish up your interpretation and style. So I used a very small aperture because I wanted the sun to do that kind of boo starbursty thing going on over there. Had to be very careful with the exposure because I didn't want to burn out any of that sky if I could possibly help it. The sun, yes, it burns out. It always burns out. I see so many comments from people online going, oh, you've burnt the sun out. You've burnt the highlights. Whoa, highlights burn out. They do that naturally in real life. You look at the sun, it's going to be burnt out. And so will your retinas be if you spend too long looking at it. Which brings me on to the next thing. A lot of people have said things like, can you damage your sensor photographing into the sun? I don't know the technical implications of that. All I can say is I photograph into the sun a lot. I include the sun in photos a lot. I have never damaged a sensor. Cameras are far more robust than we give them credit for. Now, shooting on my XT mirrorless, looking into the sun is not a problem because you don't have an optical viewfinder. You're looking at a little TV screen right in front of your eyes, so you can stare at that as long as you like. You're not actually looking at the sun. And it's a really, really useful tool for photographing the sun. If you're shooting with a DSLR, which is optical, that is a little tricky. You do need to be careful with your eyes, but hey, you're grown-ups. Common sense. Wear a pair of sunglasses, squint a bit. Yeah, try and get everything ready before you bring the camera to your eye. You know, do a couple of test shots, think things through. I'm shooting towards the sun. The camera might try and underexpose it, so I'm going to tell it to expose a bit more than the camera thinks it wants to. Get yourself ready, you know, and then when you do come up to your eye, you've got your sunnies on, and you can just kind of like squint a bit, get your composition, and go click. Don't try staring at the sun whilst fiddling with settings, you know. Another little tip for you, if you want to see where the sun is in relation to clouds, you know, there's times when you think, is that cloud going to, I want it when the cloud is clipping the sun, and you're squinting like this, trying to see the sun. Little tip for you, if you've got sunglasses, take them off and turn around and hold your glasses here, and as you move, you can see the reflection of the sun and the clouds and the sky in your glasses. Much better than trying to squint at the sun if you want to find out where it is in relation to the clouds. So there's a little bit of post-production on this. I did a little bit of brush work on the trees to the right, so I wanted to just get a little hint of that lovely backlit sunlight coming through them, just so there was a hint of green there. But a little bit of work on the sky, and I think I put a little bit of clarity onto the water just to help the reflection. But that's about it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are kind of my top 5 favorites, but of course I can't stop, can I? So I got one more I'd like to show you and talk you through. This is a very old image, and somewhere on YouTube there is a video of me talking through the thinking behind this picture. It's a very quiet picture. The composition has got lots of space. That's one of the things I like about it. It's such a quiet, peaceful picture. And these two little boats on that glassy, smooth water. This is near the sea, near the sea wall, close to where I live, and most mornings I was going for a walk along there, you know, taking a hike, riding my bicycle, a bit of exercise. So I've gone past these boats loads of times, and I kept thinking, I know there's a picture in here somewhere, but I wasn't sure how to liberate it. I tried many times. What you can't see in this, and I'm so annoyed with myself, because somewhere lost in a digital darkroom of a digital cupboard of a hard drive, I've got the other pictures, test shots I took of this, but I don't have them here. What you can't see here is if the camera was looking up a little bit, there is like some seawall on the other side opposite me, and above that were the masts of Lymington Marina, Haven Boatyard, the marina in Lymington. And it kind of ruined the picture. It's like this, how can I lose this? How can I do it? It was too far away for me to get a shallow depth of field to sort of blur them. And I kept looking at it. I photographed from one side, photographed from the other. And I stood there thinking, how can I do this? And this is where watching and thinking about what other photographers do, photographers you respect and admire, people you go and see, you know, it's worth considering what they do. I was staring at this, and I thought about my friend Bella West, and I just thought, what would Bella do? Bella is a very creative, very artistic photographer. She does crazy things, you know. She cuts the brides' heads off in photos. She has lots of blur and movement in things, and her pictures work. Google Bella West photographer. Go and look at her pictures. She does crazy mad things that shouldn't work, but they do. They absolutely communicate a feeling of a place. And I was staring, thinking, what would Bella do with something like this? So she'd do something mad, like, I don't know, put the boats at the top or something. Idiot. So all it was a case of just tilting the camera down a little bit. That's all it was. Just tilt it down, put the boats at the top with that beautiful reflection in that glassy, smooth water, and suddenly, boom, it was a lovely, quiet, peaceful picture. So there's nothing technically complicated about this at all. It's just about being there at the right time of day, very early in the morning. The sun's not far over the horizon. That's what's causing that beautiful light. There was not a breath of wind, so the water is absolutely like a mirror. I don't believe there's any post-production on this. I think this was just a JPEG that I shot. That's about all I can say about that. The thing here was the thinking, it was the considering, it was the looking. This isn't just a case of walking up and going, nice picture, click. I actually had to think about this one quite a lot before I got my head around it. What camera? This would have been on my old D300 Nikon, I guess. It certainly wasn't on an expensive pro lens. What the settings were, I don't know. They were the ones that were needed to get the exposure that was. There's nothing clever, there's nothing technical about this. Everything here depended on the light, being in the right place, and just composing it so that it would work. And I love it because it's so quiet, it's so peaceful. I do like negative space. So those are my top 5. And I think it's definitely time to answer some of your questions. Please, I hope some of you have been posting some pictures, posting some questions in the chat for Emma to harvest that I can answer. Please, if you haven't, now is a good time to do this. It's definitely time for a few Q&As. What have we got here? We have got a couple of questions here. Come on, guys, keep them coming. Gee, could you put a name, Mike, to every one of these 5 favourite pictures? You mean title the pictures? I tend not to do that. I might if it was going into a competition. In October, I was privileged to be a trainer and to exhibit at the International Photography Festival in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. And my exhibition there, I had to title some images. I found it really quite hard to do. I kind of never really thought about titles much. It's more a case of, do I like the picture or not? I'm afraid mine are all called boring things like file names. But yeah, no, I can't think of one. Somebody did. Now, who was it? Where was it? I think it was this one here. I think someone called it returning home or you know, into the fire or into the sunset or something. It wasn't me that called it that, it was somebody else, but I don't fully remember what it was or which. So let's come up here and talk to you properly. That's better, isn't it? Or maybe not. Mia Hess, I'm wondering where you focused the Hatchet Pond photo. So that is this one here. Oh, hang on, I don't know how to work my own software. Here we go. Where did I focus? Okay, Mia, think this one through. I've got a very, very small aperture, okay? Because I want to get the starburst. What do you get when you use a very, very small aperture? You get tons and tons and tons of depth of field. The focal length is quite short. I'm not using a long lens. That gives me even more depth of field. There is nothing close to the camera in the foreground that I need to worry about having sharp. So in all honesty, focusing could have been done anywhere from about 10 feet in front of the camera off to the horizon. It just doesn't matter. It's not important because I've got a tiny aperture, tons of depth of field. I haven't got a long lens, I've got a short lens, tons of depth of field. There's nothing close to the camera that I need to get sharp, so it doesn't really matter where the focus point was. But good question, good question. More questions, please, guys. Keep them coming. Paul Frote. Hi, Mike. Will you be going to the photography show in Birmingham 2020 giving a talk? I don't really know. I might be. They said they may well invite me back. And I might come and do it because I love doing my cameras don't take pictures seminars. We've just set one up in London, by the way. Go to the website, go have a look. We've got a really good one in London, and London is such a cool place for the photo walk afterwards. I don't know. I'm really not sure, Paul. It's a big trade show, and I'd like doing the talk. Whether or not I'll go, I don't know. It depends. I'm going to be going to Tangier in the new year sometime to research for a new workshop, and I'm not sure how the dates will work. If I'm available and I'm free, then I probably will, but I expect Photo Show will probably want me to commit, and I'm not sure I'm going to. If any of you guys have the opportunity to go to the Emirates and go to the Exposure Photography Festival, Google it and have a look. Exposure with an X, X-P-O-S-U-R-E. I would strongly recommend that because it's not a trade show. It's not just full of kit. It is an intercultural exchange of ideas and photography. The exhibitions are staggering by world-class photographers. I strongly recommend, if you're going to go somewhere, go there, and you might bump into me because I'm running some workshops there. Lee Humper, have you tried this boat image in black and white? I did, but I prefer the colour. I like the soft colours. I'm afraid I don't have a copy here for you guys to compare, but I did try it in black and white. Personally, I preferred the colours. John Holroyd, will I be upgrading to the XT3? No, not unless I have to. I hate getting a new camera. I just hate getting a new camera. I've looked at an XT3. I can't really see anything much different between the XT3 and the XT2. I hate getting a new camera because I've got to find out where they move things and the knobs and buttons. I never get a new camera until I've worn out the one I've got or lost it by leaving it on a bus or something. So no, I'd still be using my XT1 if I hadn't lost it. I'm not one for camera upgrades. All cameras take great pictures, or rather they do a great job of capturing images onto a sensor. How interesting the images are, how beautifully lit, well composed. It's got nothing to do with the camera you use. The great masters of yesterday took the most stunning pictures with the most basic of cameras. Look at Ansel Adams, for goodness sake. He didn't upgrade. Cochise Heart, I live in Utah. Have you ever shot there? No, Cochise Heart. I'd love to come to the States. I know very little of the States. I've hardly been to the States. It's on my list of things to do. We've got to do a little bit of work. We need to get a sponsor, because if I'm going to come and shoot and run some workshops and seminars, and I so want to, I've got so many people in New York City asking me to come, but I have to be sponsored in order to do it legally, to get a visa. Oh, something just jumped there. Em's just shoved in a load, I think. Where are we? Have you XT3 Utah? Here we go. Leonard Harding, what lens do you prefer for an on-the-move portrait shot? 70 to 200 at 2.8 or fixed 50? Ugh. I don't really fiddle about with lenses. I tend to use my 18 to 55 for pretty much everything. I lug around, it depends what I want to do with the shot. I do take my, you know, I don't know what it is, something to 200mm lens with me, because that is nice. It excludes things. You can get a nice narrow field of view. Sorry guys, I'm going to come back here. You can get a nice narrow field of view with a long lens. A long lens is like looking through that, and a short lens is like looking through that, you know, it gets in more. Depends what you want to do. If you want a wide angle lens for portraits, if you want to include the environment, a sense of intimacy. If I come really close to the camera here, it's kind of intimate, isn't it? And with a short lens, you've got to do that, and so it interprets as intimacy. I'm not really a portrait photographer. I like photographing people, but 18 to 55 tends to be my go-to. If it's something you really specialise in, you want a particular look, then maybe the f1.8 to get that really shallow depth of field, sort of bokeh effect in the background. But it's not often I use anything other than my 18 to 55, to be honest with you, particularly when travelling. But good question. Where are we? Goose, have you done any videos regarding focus stacking? If not, would you consider it? You put me on the spot, Goose. I'm not really a Photoshoppy person, a photo stacky sort of a person. I'm not seeing anything wrong with it, and you can get a great look from it. Thor, my Icelandic buddy who I run the workshop with, he is a master of photo stacking and has all sorts of little things set up in Photoshop to really do it well and quickly. And it does give a great look, particularly if you want to tilt the camera down so you get this really strong foreground going off into the distance. No, I haven't done a video on it, and I'm highly unlikely to. I'm sorry, Goose. It's not my thing, and you probably just have a lot of swearing as I was trying to figure it out. I'll have to spend a day or two learning how to do it myself. I'm far more at the camera end than I am at the computer end. But good question. I'm sure there are lots of people who can show you. Chris Clinton, you save your pics as JPEGs, why not TIFFs? It depends what I'm going to do with the picture, Chris. If they're for me, a good quality JPEG's fine. JPEGs are okay, so long as you don't fiddle with a JPEG and then resave it. Every time you resave a JPEG, it throws away a bunch of information. You do it about 5 or 6 times. You can even see the picture starting to fall apart. TIFFs won't do that. TIFFs will maintain their integrity. But I don't really need a TIFF. once I've exported my JPEG, it's there, I've got it. I can still print it up pretty big. I burn hard drives at a crazy rate as it is because of shooting video, and I don't really want a bunch of TIFFs. There's a photo shoot I did. If you've seen any of the videos I've done from my office, on the wall behind there's a picture of a Boeing 787 outside Jet Aviation's hangar. It was a commercial shoot I did. They were supplied as TIFFs, but there was a reason for it. The ad agency wanted the biggest possible image files they could have from my camera, because it was going to be turned into some very big posters, you know, in excess of 10, 15 feet high. And therefore they needed a TIFF. A TIFF will take interpolation to make it bigger, an awful lot better than a JPEG. But for my own use, for things to put online, stuff to print, you know, up to about 30 inches, I don't need anything more than a JPEG. Jimmy Somerville, have you done much wildlife photography? Is it a genre you enjoy? No and no, I'm afraid. I'm not patient enough. Wildlife photographers are the most patient people in the world, and I guess I'm not. I've got nothing against it. Have a look on Instagram for a chap called Mohammed Mirza. He has been on a couple of workshops with me, and he's a very, very good photographer anyway. He always was a very good photographer. But he's really started to get into wildlife in the last year or two, and I really think he's found his forte. I think his wildlife photography is stunning, truly stunning. It is National Geographic standard and beyond. However, he puts an immense amount of work into it. If you're going to photograph wildlife, you've got to go where the wildlife are. You've got to be there in the right light at the right time when they're doing something interesting. I'm not that patient. This is kind of why I rather like travel photography, because there's always stuff going on. It's very different. Wildlife photography can be a part of that. I totally get it. But yeah, it's not really my thing. If you want to have a look at some wildlife photography that I think is my thing, Google Amy Vitale, Amivitale. She is a National Geographic photographer. I had the privilege of meeting her briefly in Sharjah at the Exposure Photography Festival, because she was there. I mean, you know, I was blown away. I'm in amongst all these National Geographic photographers and Pulitzer Award-winning photojournalists, and you know, I'm sitting next to Kathy Moran, features editor of National Geographic, at lunch. It was an amazing experience. But Google Amy Vitale, Amivitale. She shoots a lot of wildlife, but she shoots wildlife. She shoots the story. She's a photojournalist. And some of the pictures are deeply, deeply moving. That would be the sort of wildlife I'd be interested in, rather than wildlife in its natural environment, habitat. I'm not patient enough. Sharias S, do you use a speed light during your travels? No. No, I don't. I just use available light. I don't use flash at all if I can possibly avoid it. When did I last use a flash? It was just over a year ago. I was doing a commercial job for a company called Exelon Autonomy, who run homes for people who just need looking after, you know. And they wanted me to do some pictures around their homes. Well, there's nothing could be staged because, you know, some of their residents are a little bit unpredictable. Totally lovely as well, by the way. I was just hugged to death while I was doing it. I didn't really have time to mess around, so I did use a speed light on that. That was a year ago, but now I don't take a speed light on my travels. I just use natural available light. If it's low light, it's dark, I just wump up that ISO, because a flash invariably just kills the lighting unless you're prepared to mess about. Mahesh 8106, how good is the 18-55 lens on Fuji? Well, as I've said a few times, it's my go-to lens. I love it. All the Fujinon lenses are superb quality. It's great. I use it all the time. I use it more than any other lens. That's all I can say about it, actually, the 18-55. Gee, have you got any new cameras recently, Mike? And for how long would you say you use a camera? No, I haven't got a new camera lately. I keep a camera until I've worn it out or lost it or broken it. Hate buying new cameras. They don't interest me at all. I don't give a toss about cameras. They're totally unimportant and generally speaking, irrelevant. It's just a thing that you use to capture an image. I'm interested in light and composition, where you stand, when you click, what's happening, what sort of an emotion are you capturing in the image, what emotional feeling are you passing on to the viewer. When someone looks at it, are they going to go, wow, you know, I really feel that person's excitement or pain, or look at that place, imagine what it's like being, you know, maybe, here we go, maybe imagine what it's like, you know, working in this lotus weaving thing. That's the sort of thing I like doing. And it doesn't matter what camera you use to do that. It truly doesn't. Cameras are pretty much irrelevant. I hate buying a new camera. Photobug 582. I've started using my prime lenses. Any comments on prime versus zooms? Okay, speaking personally, my own personal opinion, primes are a total pain in the arse because you're fixed at one focal length, and if you want to change your focal length, you've got to mess about and lug loads of lenses around with you and change them over. Image quality, yes, definitely better, no question about that. Are you going to see that difference if you'll just post them on, you know, online somewhere or something? Are you printing your pictures, you know, the size of that wall behind me? You'll see a difference then. About it, really, I'm afraid. Interestingly, I was talking to, well, both my buddy Simon, who shoots for, you know, Singapore Airlines, MasterCard, Heineken, all these sorts of people. He's a commissioned photographer by Getty. Getty are his agent. They find him clients and send them to him. He shoots at that kind of level. And we were talking about this, about another photographer we know, and just said, you ever noticed how so many professional photographers, they just use zooms because otherwise they're changing lens every 5 minutes. You just get crap in the camera and on the sensor, and you want to clean the sensor more and all that. Yes, they're great. Yes, they have a great appearance. Simon has an 85mm prime 1.8, which he loves, but that's the only prime he's got. Where are we? Oh yeah, and good for you on using your prime, by the way, Photobug. I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying maybe I'm too lazy to use primes. Ashwani Gupta, my question, do you think it's important to have your own style or I'll learn to speak one day. My question, do you think it's important to have your own style or your uniqueness in photos? Important? No. The only person you have to please with your photography is you. If you look at your pictures and go, yeah, I did that. That's wonderful. That's all you need, really. As a hobbyist, certainly, if you're trying to fulfill a client's brief, it's different. Is it important to have your own style? It's not important, it's do you want to develop your own style? That just comes on its own. There's no way, there isn't a magic formula, there isn't a thing you need to do to create a style. It just happens on its own the more you do photography. It will come, and it will change as well over time. Some photographers have an incredibly strong style and they will stick with it. Some like to change their style. I know I'm sort of fiddling around with mine quite a bit. I would say I'm quite graphic. I quite like lines and shapes, you know, again, like the lady, the lotus weaving lady. But it changes. I had the immense privilege to hang out with Joe McNally, again, at the Exposure Photography Festival. And, you know, looking at his images, they're breathtaking. You know, he shoots some seriously high-end stuff. And he has a very strong look. You know, a lot of his work, you know it's Joe. But then Joe is doing this for people like Epson and global marketing campaigns. You know, and he's sticking to that. You look at his personal images and some of it can be a little bit different, a bit more photojournalistic. Not important to have your own style. If you want to develop it, it will come on its own. The more you practice, the more you shoot. Where are we now? It is 10 to 8. I'm going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes, guys. So if you've got a couple more questions, we've got time for just a few more, but I will be knocking it on the head soon. Steve Foreman. Out of the 24 hours in a day, what is your favourite time for getting what killer shot? Getting that killer shot, I apologise. It's a tough question. What's my favourite time for getting that killer shot? I would probably say in the morning, early in the morning, because I'm a morning person, and that's about the only reason. My brain is working at its best when I first wake up. I tend to sort of wake up and go, let's go. If it's gone 9 o'clock in the evening, forget it. I'm brain dead, I'm useless, I won't be able to answer your questions, I won't be able to think. I am very annoying because I wake up full of mischief and bounce. But that's the main reason. I mean, it's whenever the light is right for the shots you want to take, if you can get that. If you saw the interview I did with Pulitzer Award-winning journalist Esther Suarez a few weeks ago, if you listen to that, he's saying, I'm a photojournalist, I don't have the luxury of shooting pictures when the light's right. I've got to shoot in whatever light I've got and make it pop. It's a very different thing. My favourite time of day is the morning, and probably because I'm on the ball mentally and physically early in the morning. That is the best time for me. My alarm usually goes off at 5:30. I'm usually in the gym by 6. Wrap up time, question mark. Don't forget to mention things. Oh, it's from Emma. Emma's rolling her eyes. Emma, my PA, she's rolling her eyes at this moment going, oh, for goodness sake, Browne. It is coming up to wrap up time. I haven't got any more questions in the list here, so we are going to kind of wrap it up. If you're watching this in the... oh, hang on, I just saw a quick question. What do you do on photography days when you feel uninspired? Any tips? How do you get inspired? Oh my word, there's more questions popping in. You wonderful lot. How do you get inspired when you're not feeling inspired? Go do something that inspires you. Get off that sofa, go do something that inspires you. Go look at something that inspires you. Read something that inspires you. And you'll soon find you're moving. There's masses of inspirational stuff on YouTube. And I mean anything. I'm not just talking about photography. I might go and look at the work of Sebastião Salgado because he is my all-time hero. Go and look at the work of so many people, many of whom are, you know, are amazing photographers. But it's about its mental state, isn't it? How do you get inspired? I'll go and listen to someone like Simon Sinek on YouTube, or Tony Robbins, or so many other people. Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Tom Bilyeu, all these sorts of people, and that will get me buzzing. It'll get me excited about things. I've got some quotes that I've got on the wall in my office. You know, little things that people have sent me, little moving messages, maybe from some of you guys, but also quotes. Winston Churchill, the definition of success is going from failure to failure without a lack of enthusiasm. The definition of success is going from failure to failure without a lack of enthusiasm. I find that really inspiring. And once you're in a place of inspiration within yourself, well, go rock it, go knock 'em dead, you know. But also it's difficult as well, because if you don't go somewhere that inspires you photographically, you're not going to find any inspiring pictures. At the beginning of the journey, you know, just walking around the local park can be really exciting and inspiring. But if you've done it for a while, you've been going around that park over and over again, it loses its excitement. You need to then move out, broaden your horizons, go further afield, you know. Maybe come on a workshop with me. That's what they're there for, guys. Get yourself on a workshop. Come somewhere with me. We've got a couple of places on Lanzarote. It's not an expensive one. Same with Zurich. If you want to go and really blow your socks off, come with me over to Burma. It is just amazing. Top 5 favourite photos? Several are from Burma. I would say my Burmese pictures are definitely my favourite shoot overall that I have ever done. Yeah, that's how you get inspired. If you like car shows, go to car shows. If you like National Trust properties, go to National. If you like castles, go there. If you like gardens, go to flower gardens. Don't think you'll find inspiration unless you're somewhere that inspires you. What are your views on post-production manipulation? I kind of covered that earlier, subvids. I do what I need to do to make my JPEGs because I want them to reflect what I saw, what I felt, and make them look natural. The camera won't necessarily do that for you when it does your post-production. So if you shoot JPEG, the camera's doing the post-production on your RAW for you. I want to do it myself. Lenny, Mike, what do you do on photography days when you feel uninspired? Sorry, I've done that. Colin L, I'm off to Borneo in the new year. Jealous. Have you been there? I'm taking a 24 to 105, possibly a 100 to 400 lens, but I don't want to be bogged down with gear. Yeah, don't get bogged down with gear. I just take my 18 to 55. If you're going to try and shoot wildlife and stuff, yeah, you'll probably need a longer lens. Yeah, 24 to 105 and a 100 to 400, that's about all you need really, isn't it? You're covering a lot. If you're on a full frame camera, 24mm is almost wide angle, so that's pretty good. Also, I've just had a message. Remember, I need to apologise to you all. Somebody made a mistake and there will be a sacking. You got a reminder email saying the live is going out tomorrow night. And it should have said tonight. Somebody made a mistake along the line. I know who it was. And it doesn't matter. She's fantastic. It wasn't Em and it wasn't Fox. Anyway, there we go. Apologies for that, guys. That's probably about all I can say for the moment. A little bit of news. My online courses, we've just put together a little bit of a special package deal thing. It's called In Full Focus. It begins at the beginning with beginners. You know, how to use your camera, how to spot compositions, use light and all that kind of stuff. And it goes right through everything, the 7 blocks, how to connect the technical and the creative, and through into, you know, pre-visualization, post-production using Lightroom. If you buy it as a package, if you buy the whole In Full Focus, you get the beginner's course free of charge. You also get a little bonus video that is unique to this package. It's of the Cameras Don't Take Pictures seminar that I did at the photography show in February this year. That's about all I have to say, really. I think it's definitely time to wrap up. It's 5 minutes to 8. I have one last question. Stephen Duffy, I'm syllabus secretary for my local camera club. Do you plan to do talks? I do talks. The thing is, I'm going to be really honest with you. Most camera clubs don't have any money. Now, I know that sounds incredibly mercenary, but here's the thing. If I spend half a day preparing, and then I drive a couple of hours to someone's camera club, and then I spend another couple of hours there and another couple of hours coming back, that's a full day, and I don't have enough hours in the day. I just was asked if I would do a talk for a camera club, and I put it together, and it worked out that if they got 30 people there, it would have been £13.50 per head, which I think is pretty reasonable. But unfortunately, it was beyond the budget. So yes, I do, but I don't do them for free. I'm really sorry. I just can't do that. There are not enough hours in the day, and there are so many things that need to be done. And I obviously have to pay people. But I'm totally up for a chat. I just wanted to make sure you were clear about that. Stephen, ping me an email through the website. Totally up for a chat if that sounds good to you. I promise we'll rock the house. Zap D, do you use the dehaze function quite often if I think it needs it? I'm sorry, Zap DL. There's no answer to that question. If an image needs a little bit of dehaze, yes. If it doesn't, no. Sorry to sound like I'm being patronising, but it really is. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the line. There's a couple of links below this. If you want to go and check out some more of my pictures, things. There's a link to the In Full Focus package, which you get to save quite a bit of money on, and you get a little bonus as well because the beginner's part is free. If you're watching this in the archive or you haven't seen me before, please leave some comments in the comments. I'd love you to answer the questions the guys have done in the live conversation. Leave some comments. I'll do my best to come back to you. It's fascinating to see what you think. If you don't like this when it's archived, you leave a thumbs down. Tell me why in the comments. I'm always interested to know. But beyond that, guys, I think it's wrap-up time. It's heading towards 8 o'clock. It's been really, really fabulous to see you all. I'm just having a little look at your comments here. I'm scanning through. Emma will curse me. She says, don't you dare go looking back and look at all those comments. It is truly amazing. Thank you all so much for showing up. Again, I apologize for not having posted many videos on YouTube this year. It's been a crazy mad year. I'm hoping to get a little Christmassy thing done, but I'm racking my brains. Simon and I are working flat out on a new project. He's only in England to do that, and he wants to go back and see his wife in Singapore as soon as possible. We'll see what we can do. Thank you so much for being here. I wouldn't be doing this amazing life, having this amazing life and doing what I do if it weren't for you guys. Take care, look after yourselves. Hopefully speak to you soon.